I think it's time to start our workshop. And first, I just want to say thank you all for being here. It's a pleasure to spend time with people at GA. We're making the best of this virtual experience. And in a way, it has afforded me the opportunity to have a workshop with all of you where we may not have been able to get together. So for that, I'm really grateful. My name is Reverend Terra Collier-Young. Let's wait for these folks to get in. Hi, James. Welcome.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Doug.
Again, if you would like to receive our newsletter, please put a message in the chat box with your name and email address and phone number if you're comfortable.
Yeah, and the other reminder that this is recorded, and so if you don't want your image recorded, you can turn off your video. This is an interactive workshop, though, so I am hoping that people will want to participate when the time comes. So, as I was saying, my name is Reverend Terra Collier-Young. I am the affiliated community minister with the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Santa Cruz County in Santa Cruz, California. We're on the Pacific time zone, and that's the other very interesting part of this virtual GA is us managing these time zones. 3 hours makes a big difference. I'm a graduate from Star King School for the Ministry, and I was ordained by my home congregation in 2018, and now I serve as their community minister. So a bit of housekeeping. I will post a Google Doc in the chat, and right now it is on my last slide. So I'm sorry about that. I don't want to scroll through them to get to it right now to put it on there, but it will be there. Like I said earlier, this is an interactive workshop, and I hope that people will be interested and willing to speak and share some of their experiences. The imagery you're seeing on my slides are soul collage cards, and that's actually one of my ministries is being a soul collage facilitator. So the objective of this workshop is essentially to show you how my congregation, our senior minister, and I co-created our covenant. And because Unitarian Universalism is very much a covenant-oriented faith practice, we take covenanting very seriously. It's a privilege. Hey, there's Ben. It's a privilege, it's a responsibility, and in our governance model, it is empowering for us to create our own bylaws, our mission and our vision statements, and again, the covenant between ministry and the congregation. And ministerial accountability is a key component in this agreement. Integrity is its heart, and mutuality is the spirit. So when we co-create, we have an opportunity to nuance things because we're not a cookie cutter faith, Each congregation, the personalities that make up the congregation, the leadership that we can call to our congregation creates this unique little environment of people. And so that is, again, why covenanting is so important. Wow. Come on in, everybody. Let's see here. That's with that. So as you see on this slide, this is a little overview of what I'm going to offer. I'm doing my own greeting and introduction. And the overview, There'll be a slide on covenant, the definition of it, and some key words, an outline of the covenant that I co-created with my Reverend, my senior minister, Reverend Russ Mink, and the UUFSCC, which is the acronym for the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Santa Cruz County. And then there's going to be an opportunity, if you are so inclined, to share a story of your community ministry. I want many voices make for an interesting story. And so I'll move on to this slide. And as you are interested, you're invited to share a bit about yourself. And I want to kind of be mindful of the time, and we have 5, 10, 15, about, I'm saying 13 people. So if we could all take a moment to offer our name, our location, the affiliated congregation, and your current ministry or leadership practice and position, and if you have one, your vision of the future ministry that you want to be a part of. One way that we can do this is that I can start and tap someone, and then they can tap another person, and they can tap another person, so that it just flows. And if you aren't wanting to share, just say pass, and that's all good as well. So I'm going to tap Nikki, primarily because she's my friend, and I love to hear what she's offering, and I think it's a wonderful ministry. So there you go, Nikki.
Thanks, Terra. I'm Nikki Hunt, and I am, for one thing that I am doing, is the membership director for the UU Society for Community Ministries. I also, my main community ministry, is in nonprofits. So I'm the Director of Development at Southern Arizona Legal Aid as my full-time job. And I'm in Tucson, Arizona, and it's about 109 out today. I'm very happy to be here with you all. And I am going to tap Sonia.
Hi, I'm Sonia Bergeron. I'm in Colorado Springs, Colorado. The church that I'm a member of and active with right now is High Plains Church UU. And I finished school, and I'm looking to get my next position, next step. And healthcare chaplaincy is what I am interested in doing. So I've been trying to get into that. And I will call on Dion.
Hi, I was just typing. I'm not in ministry. I was just coming to this site to check it out. I don't know what this site is about. Is this primarily for ministers?
Lay and ordained.
Okay, yeah, I don't know if I meet any of those.
Well, community
So-
ministry.
Tell a little bit about yourself, and then we'll.
Yeah, tell us.
Okay,
tell us
my name.
about-
My name is Dion Lachey. Again, I'm from Bennington, Vermont. I am a member of All Souls, the West Village Meeting House All Souls Church in West Brattleboro. I'm also a Church of the Larger Fellowship member, and I've been a member of All Souls. It's going on 25 years. And I sit on SEEK, which is Social and Environmental Action Committee. And I'm also on Buildings and Grounds, and I do a few other things. I also support a lot of areas of the Service Committee and the UUA in different areas. So that's all I got for myself.
Call on somebody.
Oh, okay. Somebody. Douglas.
Thank you. I'm Doug Jones. I do campus ministry at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. I am the UUSCM Secretary Treasurer, and I'm also the UUSCM GA Events Coordinator. So thank you all for being here, and I'd like to call on James.
Thanks. Hi, my name's James Long, and I am in San Diego, California, at First UU Church in San Diego, and I serve as treasurer on the board. But I'm active in climate change. I'm interested in. I'm not a lay minister, but I'm interested in, like, I would like to make it easier for our congregations to have lay ministries, because I feel like, so I'm hoping to, I'd like to have a path for us. And I'm interested in, climate change, science, religion, and like an spirituality. I don't have any religious training, but I'm very inspired by that. So, okay. And let's see, who hasn't gone? Can I call on David Reno? Has he gone yet?
Before you go there, David, hey, Doug, looks like some folks are probably who are new, may interested in UUSCM. I suggest maybe put the information about an open house session so they can come and ask questions, learn more about UUSCM, because I just want to make sure that we have enough time for Terra for her presentation as well.
Yes.
Well, this is a part of the presentation, Ben. We're just inviting people to introduce themselves. Yeah, and because more people have joined us, so let's keep our introductions brief so we can get through everything. David?
He's muted.
Mm-hmm. Hold on, David, you're muted.
Am I muted? Can you hear me now?
Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm David Reno. I'm a member of the First Church in Boston, and I consider myself to be something of a social justice minister. I have worked in the church in adult education, bringing speakers and videos on different subjects, and I've also gone up to the State House many times backing bills. So I consider social justice ministry to be my ministry, similar to what Starr King did when his ministry kept the California in the Union. So I'm not sure if that qualifies as a ministry, but I tend to think it does.
Okay. So I'd like to go ahead. Yes, please do. Yes, I was just going to call on you.
So my name's Kiana. I currently hold the role of Social Justice and Pastoral Care Coordinator at UUAA, which is Ann Arbor. And but I'm moving into a congregational life role and considering ministry. And I want to recognize that this isn't the best space for me to be in. Like, I'm realizing, oh, I understand all of this stuff, but it's not the entry point. So I'm going to step away, and I just wanted to own that, but also let you know, like, maybe one day you'll see me, but right now this isn't where I am, and I didn't want to just leave auspiciously. So thank you for your time, and I respect your process, and I hopefully will see you in a couple of years.
Very good. That'd be lovely, Kiana. Be well.
Be well.
Okay. How about if we hear from Holly?
Hi, everyone. I'm Holly Flutie Dempsey. I just graduated from Meadville with a Master of Arts and Leadership Studies with a lay ministry concentration. I am going to start the commissioning process to be a commissioned lay minister in the Central East region this coming fall. I'm currently on the board and a past chair, excuse me, in my congregation. So it's a little awkward asking me to endorse me. So,
it's all good.
Yeah, just a little bit of conflict of interest there. I'm part of the generational shift. I'm a almost mid-60s heteronormative white woman. And so I'm looking for, how do I support lay ministry within the UUA, and my thesis at Meadville was on lay ministry, going all the way back to the Cambridge platform, and kind of trace that. And I'm truly interested in a denominational-wide commissioning lay ministry. I mean, I think commissioned lay ministers should walk the stage at the service of the living tradition. I think it's time for us not to be professionals, don't hear that from me, but it's time for commissioned lay ministers to rise up.
Thank you. I'm in on that one. Yeah. Let's see here. Shakisha, would you like to go? Am I pronouncing your name correctly?
You are, yes, thank you. My name is Shakisha Gray. I am in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. I'm starting the affiliation process with my home congregation, which is Piedmont UU in the University area of Charlotte, North Carolina. There are two congregations in Charlotte. My husband and I actually started the Salisbury Gathering, which is a satellite of PUUC, several years ago in our backyard. And that's a thriving satellite of PUUC. I graduated in 2018 with my MDiv from Wake Forest University here in Winston-Salem. And I started CPE. I have 2 units of CPE. I was in a serious car accident, so I took a couple of years of sabbatical to heal from that. And I'm starting residency again in August at Baptist Hospital, which is our large university teaching hospital. Candidate minister, but during my internship process and then my CPE process have sort of ascertained that I really love chaplaincy more than congregational work. I love congregational work. I love doing pulpit supply. I'm leading a lamentation hour right now for the UU Fellowship of Winston-Salem. I love doing that work, but I really feel called to chaplaincy work. I'm also endorsed by the American Humanist Society, so I'm a UU humanist and I am a humanist chaplain as well. So I'm interested in beginning this affiliation process for being in covenant with PUUC and being a community minister with them and some sort of lay leader, as opposed to meeting with the MFC and going that whole route to be, just to have that fancy title. It's just not where I feel called and led, and I really feel like my space is in chaplaincy work and board certification for chaplaincy.
Thank you. Let's see here. So I see Nathan. Would you like to check in?
Yes, Nathan Willis Stanley. I'm a community minister at First Unitarian in Denver, Colorado. Been there for 8 years. Most of that time, my work's been in nonprofit organizations. Most of that time I've been at the ACLU of Colorado, but not now. Right now I'm working on a project for a national abolished slavery network. And I don't know what direction my ministry is going in the future, but how we contract around community ministry has been of interest to me, and so that's why I signed on to this.
Great, thank you, thank you. And we have Marianne. Would you like to check in, Marianne?
Okay, did I unmute properly?
Yes, you did.
Okay, thank you. So my name is Marianne Jew, and I am with East Suburban UU Church just east of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I just am trying to learn more about, this is the first time I've heard of the group, so I'm just trying to learn more about it. Currently, my roles with my congregation are adult RE, and we do 3/4 lay-led worship, so I also do worship development. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see here. We haven't heard from Matt. Matt, are you still with us?
Hello.
Hi there.
So I am my home congregation is Unitarian Universalist congregation in Charleston, West Virginia, where before COVID-19 I did sound, but well, was the main person who did sound, but now I help run the Zoom rooms. I am also just want to learn more. The closest thing that I might consider a ministry of sorts is before COVID. I did community theater, which often touched upon social justice subjects, but I wouldn't consider myself a minister.
Okay. Thanks, Matt. And hey, Ben, this would be a good time for you to check in and to tell everybody about the other UUSCM workshops and things that are happening.
Sure, thank you. My name is Ben Gable. I serve as the co-president of the UU Society of Community Ministries, along with the Reverend Bonnie Tirewater, who's an affiliate community minister. I identify as a lay community minister. I do much of my work in the Metro Detroit area around social justice work. I also serve in the larger UU faith in many different capacities. One is the Journey Toward Homeless Transformation Committee, look at anti-racism, anti-oppression, multicultural work. And I've also served a past member of DRUM, the Diverse Revolutionary Unitarian Universe Multicultural Ministries. So a lot about USCM is that we really honor shared ministry, both ordained and lay, and we have both lay folks and ordained clergy on our board and as members of UUSCM. So if you're wondering if this is the right space for you, absolutely, because this is the space to do shared ministry, not just only in your congregation, but we also believe that Unitarian Universalist ministry doesn't just happen within our walls, but beyond our walls is a motto of how do we bring Unitarian Universalism, not just in our brick and mortar congregations, but we have many folks who do UU ministry in chaplain, in hospitals, doing social justice work, community organizing. There's lots of different ways of bringing your ministry beyond our walls, but still being covenant in relationship with your local congregation.
Thank you. Thank you. Have I got everybody? Everybody who's checked in that wants to? All righty, let's move on. So one of the things I thought would be an interesting exploration is just to have a look at the definitions of a covenant. And so on this slide, you will see that it is more than simply an agreement, but it's not quite as stodgy as a contract. A covenant is a living document. It is carefully and mindfully crafted to marry aspects of relationships together in mutuality. It is a binding agreement, and it is adaptable as it is applied and changed as needed. And for one who is spiritually minded, a covenant is a promise between the covenanter and spirit of life, God, goddess, ground of being. It is an alliance intentionally forged between a minister and the community being ministered to. And in this case, it includes the communities outside of the congregation's walls. There is a formality to it that represents the intention and the seriousness of its construction, yet it's not so formal as to be rigid and a barrier to progress. It is solemn in its importance and joyful in its delivery. And I love this. Covenant is both a noun and a verb. The noun is the piece of paper and those written words, and the verb is its intentions and actions in the world. And as I created this workshop, I just found myself with all of these words, these key words, and I just thought they were such a wonderful cacophony of words that brought up all kinds of thoughts and inspirations for me. Accountability, mutuality, nuance, information, relationships, lifting up, highlighting, structure, guidance, reference point, transparency, co-creativity, privilege, responsibility, inspiration, representation, support, guidance, best practices, intention, intentionality, harmony, agreement, promise, innovation, integrity, wholeness, respect, expression, comfort, security, trust. Do any other words come up for anybody as you look at this list? I got my pen and I'm taking notes.
I like co-creativity.
Me too. Me too.
Maybe I'm missing it, but flexibility.
Ooh, let's get that one in there. Okay.
Maybe clarifying.
Nice. All righty. So we'll mosey on to the next slide.
I want to say transparency.
What's
Transparency. Yeah.
Transparency. Let's get that.
Yeah.
Oh, it is in there. There we go. Transparency. All right. Well, if you think of any else, go ahead and tap them into to our chat. Okay. So the process through which my senior minister, Reverend Russ Mink, and the board president, Sarah Marshall, and I did is we got together and had a brainstorming session. I think one of the most significant parts of brainstorming is that it has no limits. Even the craziest concepts can be spoken because it's getting ourselves out of our way so that we can let everything be on the table and be seen. And then we clarify, then we glean, then we find what is most important. So I would start with and say that the brainstorming process is crucial. It's where creativity happens. And again, like I said, we get out of our own way so that we can let the fluidity of the process reveal itself. So the outline of the covenant as crafted by Reverend Russ and Sarah Marshall and myself, we began with our overall relationship. And the reason why we started with this is that I have been a member of the UUF-SCC, the Fellowship in Santa Cruz County, since 1996. And I have been on every committee except for finance. And that's for a really good reason. I have been the board president. I have been the chairperson for the worship team. I have been the DRE. And so essentially, we needed to start with a really honest understanding about who I am and where I am in this congregation so that I could then know where I needed to go from there. And so it begins with our overall relationship, my relationship to the fellowship, and the fellowship's relationship to me. Then we moved into the settled parish minister. Can I have my computer? And part of the reason for that is that oops, wrong mouse. Can I have my mouse? We wanted to define what was really important in regards to what skills I was to offer and the protocol through which I was going to navigate myself. And I'm hoping that I have it right here. Oh, I don't. Okay, anyway, I'll just remember. And this was really important because the community minister, and especially myself in particular, who is, I'm also a member of the fellowship, we needed to have very clear boundaries on who could ask me to officiate their wedding, their memorial service. And so we agreed that Reverend Russ had, he was to be asked first. And then we parsed out the level of detail of whether if a congregant wanted me, they still went to Russ and asked. So there's some of these details that needed to be really carefully crafted. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go ahead and bring the covenant up, because I think that there it is. I think I'm a little nervous, and I want to make sure I've got it straight. Yeah. Okay. And we also invoked some of the UUMA, the Unitarian Universalist Ministerial Association's, some of their guidelines. And that was a very useful resource. So we brought that into our conversation. So the referrals, again, that's where Reverend Russ was to be asked first. And we did agree that if the person is a member, they ask Russ first. But if they are a friend of a member, then they can go ahead and ask me. And I know this detail sounds a little particular, but you know, they say the devil's in the details, and we wanted to make sure that this was really addressed and attended to, so that we had clear boundaries and understandings.
So the angels, or the angels.
So David, could you mute yourself?
No.
No, you can't? Okay. So the ministerial tasks, and this was actually kind of fun, because I could say what I wanted to do and what I didn't want to do, the responsibilities that I was really willing to take on, the responsibilities that the congregation really wanted me to take on. And so we parsed out some of the things, like I managed the Facebook pages. And when we march in our Santa Cruz Pride Parade, or when we march or participate in any of the community marches and parades, I'm the organizer for that. I'm also to contribute to our newsletter. We have a weekly e-news, and I contribute to that monthly, as well as, you know, being available for when someone needs counseling or chaplaincy. I'm available for that as well. Because I am a community minister, we have agreed that I'm not on staff. And that was a very important decision. But I can be paid by the members and by friends for any services that I provide. And so I have adopted the fee scale as suggested by the UUA for ordained ministers. And for people who are lay leaders, the UUA has a fee scale that they recommend as well. So you can look into that on the uua.org website. The facilities. Now this was, I would say, of all of our considerations, this was the stickiest one. We have a lovely campus. It is in a beautiful setting, and it is rented out a lot for weddings and quinceañera celebrations. We have a preschool that is there, that is there during the week. And we have another group called Growing Up Social, which uses the campus a lot as well. And part of my request, and it took a lot of conversation for this to become clear, I wanted to be able to use the fellowship for my outreach and for my workshops. And so after much conversation, it was agreed that I would write up a proposal for what we call a board-sponsored event. And in the board-sponsored event, the one that I can offer you that I did last September, I think it was in September, I hosted a Theater of the Oppressed workshop. And I invited Jiwan Chung, who was my Theater of the Oppressed teacher at Star King School for the Ministry, to lead the workshop. And we wanted to have the facility available to us. That included the kitchen and the sanctuary, obviously the bathrooms, and the backyard. And that was, like I said, it required that I fill out a request for it to be a board-sponsored event. And then we advertised it through our local community newspapers. I advertised it on Facebook. We created a Theater of the Oppressed Facebook page. And what was really, really wonderful is that my co-organizer for Theater of the Oppressed is a communications instructor at Cabrillo Community College, a local community college. And so she invited the theater department and the English department, and we had a really lovely turnout. It was a very successful day. So I'm really, and I have to admit, because my first requested board-sponsored event was successful, I set a good precedence. So I'm really grateful for that. The fellowship facilities goes on about I have right to use the fellowship address in my correspondence. I have a @UUFSCC email address. I can request support and work from our office administrator, but I need to work with that through Reverend Russ. I have an inbox at the office. So these are just ways that the fellowship itself supports what I'm doing. And it also gives me cred. I would say that if I mail something out with the fellowship's address, and not just my home address, I have like a professional address that I'm working with. Yeah. So community outreach, I mentioned that a little earlier. I am the person who works with Pride Parade and the Women's March and a lot of our outreach. We have a group called Out in Our Faith. And so I've been working with them for, well, we haven't done anything in about a year, but that's always interesting. It's interfaith gatherings. Oh goodness, what was that? Anyway, it included ministers and priests and pastors from religions all across Santa Cruz County. And I felt really honored and proud to represent Unitarian Universalism. And actually, and that's one of the conversations that I'm to have with Russ, is that we discuss who will be that representative. And sometimes we both show up, and sometimes he has a particular feel for it and he wants to be a part of it. Sometimes I do. So we're in constant conversation. Russ, I'm meeting with the settled or senior minister. So Russ and I have agreed to have quarterly check-ins with each other. And one of the things that's nice about that is that we have a good colleague relationship with each other anyway. We have a nice mutual respect. And I get to support him in his ministry as well as him supporting me. So there's great mutuality in that. I want to offer, while I'm mentioning this, is that our congregation has a youth minister who is a Presbyterian, and he is a fantastic young man with dreadlocks and lives on his boat in the yacht harbor. And his name is Reverend Ryan Althouse, and he has engaged our youth just wonderfully. It's been such a delight. And so I work with him as well. When this covenant was crafted, Ryan was not working with us, so he doesn't really factor in it. But I would include him if I was to do that now. I would include him in the crafting, or at least ask for his input, just out of curiosity. So addressing conflict. We have a community on ministry, and we have a conflict resolution team. So we will start there. We will start with what we have in our own congregation. And if somehow we can't find a resolution, then we will go to the good offices through our district. And yeah, and we figured, heaven forbid, we should get so far that wouldn't do it. I think we're feeling pretty confident, so that's where we left it. Revisions to this document. It is a living document. Just because it has Roman numerals marking all of the distinct parts, just because we've carefully crafted the language, you know, it still gets to be revised. And so we've agreed to review it, let's see here, in consultation with the board, really on as need. We decided against making it an annual review. Because for instance, we wanted a whole year just to live into it, to see how it's supporting us, and then live that next year to see if there's anything then that needs to be attended to. And so far, it's good. Then the termination of affiliation would be mutual. It says the affiliated ministerial relationship between Reverend Terra and the UUFSCC may be terminated by the board or by Reverend Terra, and terms and conditions will be evaluated at the time of the presentation. Pretty straightforward. And then reporting to the board. We do an annual report. All committees present something just to let people know what they are up to, what their visions for the future are. And so I participate in that. And it's not the formal document that it used to be. It used to be we would print it out and bind it, and it would be a paper report. Now it is part of our congregational meeting once a year. But I do write for the current happenings, which is our weekly e-news. And as I mentioned earlier, I facilitate our Facebook presence. And so that is, in a way, how I am engaging the congregation. I'm engaging the community. I'm being very transparent and obvious about what I'm doing and what I have to offer. This covenant was created, signed, and presented like a ritual. We had, I don't know if everybody does the same as we do, very likely not. When we have a new member's welcoming, in the order of service, we have what the congregation will read in their promise to the new member, what the senior minister will offer, and then what the new member will promise to do. So that we had essentially a similar ceremony like that, and it was really lovely. And the covenant is available on the members page on the website, so that if anybody needed to reference it, again, for instance, if they had a memorial service and they wanted to know the protocol on how to go about who to ask, whether I could do it. So it's completely accessible to everybody. So that is in a nutshell, and I have my whole covenant on the document that I will give you the link to the Google slide.
Thank you, honey.
Yeah. So this is a slide showing my ministry. And part of the discernment story for this is that I love my home congregation and I love congregational life, but I feel like I can check that off. I've done 20 years of volunteer work, and it's been wonderful, and it has been completely formative in how I feel. In fact, it has everything to do with how I felt called to ministry in the first place. And one day, I'm walking down the street and I'm saying, I don't want to do this and I don't want to do that and I don't want to. And then I said, okay, stop. What do I want to do? And I'm like, chaplaincy and hospice, communication and justice, Dance is a spiritual practice. Celebrations and worship and teaching and development. And I just went, holy smokes, there it is. There is. And then I got the cosmic download, 5 Seeds Ministry. And I have had a blast creating this ministry. It has been one of the most, I want to use the term divinely inspired, the most creative, the most fulfilling, and everything that has come to me is how I can be of service to the world. So it has just been wonderful, and I highly encourage people to do their own discernment and to ask yourself, what do I want to do? Where are those passions? What am I called to? So the venues you see on this slide, dance is a spiritual practice. I'll jump in with that. The images you've seen on the other slides, those are soul collage cards. And I'm a part of the conscious dance community here in Santa Cruz. And I have crafted a workshop to follow a dance so that people can keep with the process of what comes up for them in the dance and create a soul collage card. And as far as I know, that's a wholly unique thing. I feel very excited about it. I am very active in hospice work. The Terra Home Hospice is it's a cabin up at the Land of Medicine Buddha, which is a Tibetan Buddhist retreat center here in SoCal. And we volunteer to attend to one guest at a time. They will have someone with them 24/7. And the majority of the people are volunteers. And it is, without a doubt, the most heartful and sometimes heartbreaking and holy work I can ever do, is to be with beloveds in their time of transition.
Is it to lepers?
What's that?
Did you say lepers?
No.
No. Terra Home Hospice. People, beloveds? I said beloveds. People who are beloveds. Yeah. The other thing that I'm doing in a lot of my justice work is that we have Surge, which is showing up for racial justice, and we have a Santa Cruz chapter, and I'm engaged with that, as well as Extinction Rebellion. And then Conversations for Change is a Santa Cruz version of living room conversations. And if you don't know about living room conversations, I highly encourage you to check it out. The idea being is that we sit in an environment like this, on Zoom, and we discuss the challenging topics of our time. And with the agreement to listen, to not to argue, to not try to talk someone to your position, and to tell someone that they're wrong. It is to listen and be heard.
Well done.
Thank you. So this is an opportunity now. If anybody has a community ministry story that they would like to share, because we are all storytellers, and I think that it makes life really interesting. So you've heard enough from me. Who would like to? We don't actually, since I can see everybody here, if you raise your real hand, we can call on you and you can tell us some of your community ministry story. And we do have plenty of time. So if you want to keep it around 3 minutes or so, that would be great. Go ahead, Shakisha.
Okay. Well, when you were sharing, I kept nodding, and then I had to take myself off of, put it back on videos share, because it really resonated. Hospice work. I became a certified death doula through the University of Vermont's Larner School of Medicine. They have a really great program, and Cabot Creamery helps fund that program, so they can give you a little bit of a scholarship to help with that as well. So became a death doula and have been able to really share more with in congregational settings about advanced care planning and talking more about death and dying. and have recently started the process to become a Death Cafe facilitator as well. To really, so a lot of my community work has been in sort of taking this taboo out of death and dying that we have as a culture. And, you know, I could get on a soapbox for that and go down a whole other road, but I will spare you that now. But yeah, so, you know, chaplaincy has led me into that work, and I really feel that is a lot of what where my work has gone. And prior to going to div school or to, you know, starting the congregation, but, you know, even, you know, early in our UU, we've been UUs for 15 years or so. And even in like undergrad, had taken an anthropology class and did my project on celebrations of death. And it was so odd how that's just come full circle. So, yeah.
Well, thank you for being a death doula. That is like an amazing practice. I'm happy to hear about that. And yes, we need to reclaim the beauty of our dying. And that's what a death doula does for us. Thank you. Yeah. Anybody else would like to share their story?
I'm going to have to sign out because I have to scoot to another session.
Okay. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Very nice presentation. And I left you my contact. So if you want to contact me or keep in touch.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks a bunch, Dion.
You're welcome. Yeah, thank you so much.
Be well.
You too.
Hello.
Hello.
You mentioned, hello.
Hi there.
I don't think you can see me because lights here. Well, I'm here, honest.
I see you.
There's an organization which Shekinah probably knows about. It's called the Funeral Consumers Alliance of Massachusetts. And they can't change the fact they're going to die, but they can give you information about things like green burial and what to expect. I think it came out of the book Jessica Bedford's The American Way of Death. So it's an organization that's run on volunteers, but everybody should know about it. We have a chapter in eastern Massachusetts and western Massachusetts. So there is an organization that can assist you with it. They they have several items, and I don't think it's very well known, unfortunately. So let me throw that in.
Thank you. We have a chapter of the Funeral Alliance here in Santa Cruz as well. Good work. Thank you. Thank you for bringing that up.
Sure.
Yeah, let's hear from you, Nathan.
Yeah, I've had an agreement with First Unitarian for quite a number of years, and it's really time for us to relook at that. So this is very helpful. Thank you for what you're offering. The agreement we did is not as it's actually not as thorough and detailed as the one that you just described. There are some things in it. I mean, certainly it does detail what sort of services I provide. I typically I preach a couple of times a year. I'm curious whether your agreement includes that, and does it specify how often, and are you paid for it or not?
So we agreed that I would gift the fellowship 3 services a year, and then anything after that, I'm paid the recommended UUA fee.
Yeah, that's like mine, except mine is 2. I basically give 2 and I'm paid after that. One thing that is in my agreement, and I'm curious whether it's something that is typically done, but we talked about it and they said it really made sense, is that no congregation should want to have an affiliated minister who is not a member of the UUMA if they are eligible to be. And so they paid my UUMA dues.
Oh.
That's part of the agreement. And part of the idea of that is to ensure that any minister that's affiliated with them is part of that they have a stake in that, as well as me having a stake in that. And I wonder if that's something that that's recommended for community ministry, if for people who are eligible, because it kind of makes sense to me. I still, I also donate to the congregation, which is more than what they're paying for that, but it makes some sense to me that that's actually built into the agreement.
That does. And actually, one of the documents that I have in the resources, which will be my last slide, is the UUSCM co-authored letter with the UUMA and that invitation for community ministers to have both memberships. Yeah, so that's very generous for your congregation to pay for your dues too, because that's very supportive.
Well, they do, and certainly I think it would be a good thing for this group to advocate for.
Question, Nathan: Are you in the community ministers chapter of the UUMA? Are you in a chapter of the UUMA?
I'm a member of the UUMA, but I'm not. And I'm listed as a community minister. I have worked in parish ministry before too.
Okay.
And I actually am about to start doing some very part-time work with a congregation, consulting with a congregation up in the mountains. But most of my work has been nonprofit work and not not congregation-based, but my affiliation's been with First Unitarian, and we did work out an agreement basically saying what the nature of my relationship as a community minister would be with that congregation. And it includes some of the things that I just said and some things that were in the agreement that Terra showed us, but there were also some things that she went into that we actually didn't.
Great. Thanks for that. And as the representative of UUSCM, I hope that your congregation will also will consider your membership to UUSCM as well. But if you're already a member of UUMA, we already have, I think Terra already mentioned this, we do have an agreement with the UUMA that that you get a reduction of the cost sharing. But we can talk about that offline if you want.
Okay.
Can I ask a procedural question here, having just written a thesis about all this? Sure. When it comes to lay ministry, and the authority that comes from ordination, and we can talk about authority and polity, but one of the things that kept coming up again and again about lay leadership versus, and I'm going to put versus ordination, is that sensitivity by some very powerful UUMA folks who want to guard ministry from anyone who is not ordained. Can someone speak to that? Because I'm a little confused about the UUMA if you're not ordained. That's just such a dividing line in our faith tradition.
Ben, do you want to speak to that? Do you have?
Yeah, I can do. Yeah. So the UUMA is often they're usually folks who are going through the fellowshipping ministerial process. So they're usually aspirants, candidates, or folks who've gone through the ministerial fellowship committee. So they go into preliminary fellowship or final fellowship. So the UUMA is a membership organization of folks who have gone through the ministerial fellowship process. Where UUSCM differs a bit is that we're supporting folks who are ordained in may have gone through the MSc process, but they're not serving a congregation in a parish ministerial role, so they could be an affiliated community minister like Terra is with her congregation. In terms of lay folks, lay ministry, we are working on building that as UUSCM as being a membership-based organization. So lay ministers then have a collegial connection with each other, and it's because it's not just you're not just doing this your work in your own congregation, but you also want to be in covenant with your other colleagues doing the same kind of ministry that you are doing. So if you are a lay minister doing pastoral care or doula ministry, UUSCM would be the mechanism for you to meet other people who are doing that same ministry. And that's definitely what I'm going to use the words of our previous president, the Reverend Cat Cox, saying that Jesus never went to seminary. So you can do ministry without the education piece. And that's one of the things about what we're doing in the UA level is that people who are called into UU ministry not everyone can afford $100,000 in debt during seminary, but we still want to support people who are called into UU ministry, but do it in accountable ways where you do it in partnership with other colleagues doing those kind of ministries, ordained or not.
Yeah, Jim, let's hear from you.
Yes, I've actually walked down that road and stepped on a few landmines myself. A former minister of my congregation here in Harrisburg was on the MFC at the time, and when I asked, this was 7, 8 years ago, to be commissioned, we hadn't done the education piece with parish ministers to explain that we were creating a middle ground between lay and clergy. And his thought was, and we just heard this, to throw himself and everything he could to keep lay people from acting like ministers. And I didn't want to be clergy, but I've been a lay chaplain at my county prison since 2005. I have 2 units of CPE and a seminary degree that is not a MDiv. I've paid some dues there. And I wanted, and he said, no problem. Well, and he was ready to go with the board and say, well, you need a year of supervised internship and this and that and the other. And it was basically MDiv without the degree. We've been working on educating UUMA members that there's an in-between, and we're trying to undo the work of the Cambridge platform of 1684, that said you're not a minister without a congregation, which is where we were when David Reeb was martyred in Selma. He was not a UU minister the day he was murdered because he left his congregation to work in the slums of Boston, and he was later made a minister after the fact because our movement invented community ministry as a category. But it's still an uphill struggle for people who are stuck in you're one or the other. And right now, my minister and I are working on, if things hadn't shut down, I'd be commissioned by now. And we've had a written agreement, as I did with his predecessor and his predecessor, on some of the things that you've been talking about, Terra, and I really appreciate your touching on a lot of things people don't think will come up, and they do. How often will I preach? What will I do? What will I don't do? And educating people all around that commissioning is, hey, it's something new. And people have said, and the people in this group will appreciate this, well, wouldn't it have been easier to, why didn't you want to get a clergy degree? And I said, that would be easy. Changing an institution is the challenge. And we who want to be commissioned are trying to change a movement that's been around since 1684 or so. And it's an uphill damn struggle, but it's worthwhile because I don't need to be clergy to do what I do. Today, I was back at the Women's Work Release Center as their chaplain for the first time in 3 months. And I was welcomed by management, and I was welcomed by a woman who had just come back from work and appreciated a book on the Psalms that I gave her. And I was doing what I know how to do and I'm good at. And, but oh my gosh, talking to people who are UUMA who believe that you're either clergy or lay, there's nothing in between. I mean, there's this guy in the past who's a wonderful minister, incredible preacher, said, well, you'll have to leave the congregation because you can't be my colleague and my congregant at the same time. And I'm thinking, well, not in your world, but we're trying to add a new category to that world. And I've been working with UUSCM before it got that name, actually, because I was on the board when we picked the name. And we were going to come out with something on commissioning. And our then president said, don't do anything yet until we do a lot of education at ministry days and ministry days and ministry days and every other way we can to get across the word that there's a new category. And I've run on at length, but it's something that I have some investment in. So thank you for raising the issue.
Yeah, hold on a second, David. I want to speak to one thing you mentioned, Jim. And one of the things my advisor at Star King, and then I hired her to be my coach when I graduated and was in discernment. Her name is Reverend Michelle Favreau. And one of the points of reference that she kept bringing me back to is accountability. And that is the biggest concern that the UUMA has about community ministry. Yeah. And that is why this covenant is so important.
Yes.
It establishes accountability. It establishes transparency. So I'm guessing, and I'm not an authority by any means, but my sense is that part of the UUMA's concern for that space between known as community ministry is accountability. And if we're wearing the Unitarian Universalist badge, it is just really important that our actions out in the community are representative of UUism.
Yeah.
That do have someone that has our back or is watching us, so that we are not, I hate to say it, but loose cannons.
Oh yeah, I knew where you were going with that, and I tuned in late. I didn't check the time, but one of the pieces on any agreement for commissioning or for covenanting has got to be the accountability piece, and pointing out to our current minister has been a community minister and was somewhat aware of the UUSCM code of ethics, pointing out, reminding him so that he and I could jointly remind the board that I have a code of ethics as a lay community minister, and that the commissioning document for me as the covenanting document for you has got to include accountability. Because I've seen what happens when people get to be a loose cannon.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that Michelle was very explicit about, is to be a member of UUSCM is also has a code of ethics and of accountability.
Yeah.
So I have that with me as well.
Right, and I just want to add something real quick here.
David had something to say.
Okay.
Go ahead, Ben.
Go ahead, David, and then I'll say what I'm going to say.
I just wanted to say that there was a minister who was in a church that was a very bad fit, and she sought me and my wife to come and help counsel her, and she said that I was her minister, so I was rather complimented with that. As far as other ministry, I try to do a ministry of theater, which I think holds many truths. And for many years, I did a seminar on episodes of The Twilight Zone, which, in my opinion, have many Unitarian themes in them. Rod Serling, people may not know it, was a Unitarian, or it was at least counseled by the Unitarians. And in addition, there is a group in Commonwealth of independent scholars who write books outside of the academic department. So I've been a member of that, and I've had Jillian Gill, who wrote a book, who just finished another book on Virginia Woolf, and other people come and speak different things. So to me, it is witnessing and doing the rhetorical, and doing rhetoric, showing how things are done or are not done, and things that people should know about. It does not fit into a nice, neat little category with bow ribbons tied around it.
Thank you, David. Let's hear from you, Ben.
I wasn't going to share my own story. I just commentary that this is a, thank you for bringing up all the things that you brought up, Jim, and thank you, David, for sharing your beautiful ministry that you do. One of the things that during this General Assembly, if you're a attendee of the General Assembly, that we're really working on how do we dismantle the systems of oppression in a Unitarian Universalism, and we're making lots of strides in that way of how do we have people enter into UU ministry that doesn't center on a ableist upper middle class white centering of what ministers are. So we're examining that, and one of the ways of doing that, I'm in consistent conversation with the UUMA of trying to create a common code of ethics so that there will be that accountability between the lay ministers and the ordained ministers and what that would look like. So we're moving towards that direction of building that accountability.
Nice. Nice. If you have anything more to say, you can. I'm just going to change the slide and show you here, and I will copy this. I think I might have to take it out of presentation. This is the document that I have created. It's a Google Doc, and you can go to it. It has two documents that I got off a UUSCM website that I felt that they too were very particular to this conversation. One is the Commissioned Community Ministry Procedures, and it's a draft, but it's as crafted by the First Unitarian Church of San Jose. And then the other one is the document on, what is it called? Commissioned, oh, here we go. Oh, there's another one. Oh, I must have clicked it away. But so, yeah, this is the one that I thought was really interesting. The letter encouraging community ministers to be both a UUMA and a UUSCM member, and it's well written. Our former UUSCM president, Reverend Kat Cox, is a part of the writing of that document, and I've worked with Kat in other capacities throughout the years, and I find her to be a very insightful and articulate person. So I appreciate her being a part of that. I think that's all I have for us right now. And it has been wonderful, wonderful to be with you all today. I feel honored that you carved out this time to attend my workshop. And I would love for you to all, for us to be in touch, maybe through Facebook, maybe through UUSCM, to continue to share our ideas, to be in like a cohort with each other around these conversations. My email address, is Terra at 5seedsministry.net. So if you ever want to get a hold of me, here, I'll put it over here in chat. Yep. Oh, that was a private. Hold on. Everyone. There we go. I'm typing into the wrong computer. Oh, goodness. Okay, there's my email address. And yeah, does anybody have anything more that they would like to add? We have a few minutes still, or otherwise we can just say goodbye. We're good? All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Terra. That's great. Thank you for sharing, and thank you everyone for sharing.
Thank you very much.
It's been wonderful, wonderful, wonderful to be with you. And I love the mind meld and to hear other people's experiences. And we are the people we've been waiting for. And as community ministers, we are out in the world making that change. You know, and that is the most significant thing we could ever do with our living breath. So let's keep it up. All right. Blessed be.